you're
could,
good.
that's a great statement. You could staple an apple to a palm tree, but that doesn't make it an apple tree.
Yeah. You can put new behaviors on people, but if their heart doesn't change, they're going to go right back to what they were because they're going to stay the same.
Yeah. Welcome to the Reality Is podcast, where we talk about real life and real faith. And today we've got a very special guest that's going to be joining us on the podcast today. His name is Alex, and he's the youth pastor here at Crossroads Community Church. Man, Alex, can you just tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm the youth pastor, like he said. I've been here for a couple months, and it's been great. It's been great to be a part of the team here and be able to do ministry with these guys, especially this one over here.
Because I'm nothing but a nutcase, and all you do is laugh at me all day. But that's okay.
I didn't say it.
You didn't say it.
You were the one that said that.
Yeah. Well, the reason that we're going to be talking together today is because you and I both have a passion that's near and dear to our hearts, and that's counseling. Both of us are actually you're pursuing a counseling degree. I'm pursuing a certification and becoming a biblical counselor. And so I wanted to spend some time today with you talking about counseling and what counseling looks like. And there's a couple of different ways you can go with this, right? So I looked up the word counseling, and this is the definition of counseling. It's the provision of assistance and guidance in resolving personal, social, or psychological problems and difficulties, especially by a professional. And I saw that and I went, ooh, it's a good definition, but counseling, I know, is so much more, especially when you talk about biblical counseling. And what I wanted to ask you and kind of let you run with is, what is the difference between what a normal person would consider counseling versus biblical counseling?
Yeah, so one of the things that I really liked about that definition is it says especially by a professional, not only by professionals, because, counseling is anybody can do it.
Yeah.
But not everyone should do it professionally. Mm-hmm. But the difference in regular counseling and biblical counseling is, so in biblical counseling, I've taken some classes on this. I got a chaplaincy degree from Charleston Southern. So I was reading this book, and they gave a great definition of it. It says, counseling that is truly Christian will have much more. The person and work of Christ will be its theological and practical center. Christ and his gospel must be the foundation, means, and end of our counseling. If by the end of our time together, you have not helped this person look more like Christ, then what you've done is not Christian counseling.
And I love that example. And that's a great definition, because our goal is to always draw people closer to Christ, right? And to, as it just said there, make them look more like Jesus as they leave that place. And that's kind of a hard thing to do sometimes, especially if people are coming in and they have no idea who Christ is.
Oh, yeah.
So would you say that one of the first things that you're trying to do is just kind of establish, hey, is there a relationship, right? Because if there's no relationship with Christ, it's kind of hard for them to actually get to that understanding of what we're trying to teach them.
Yeah, because, in any form of counseling, your first thing is, who is this person? Where are they at? What's going on? You're just trying to establish what's happening, what's taking place, what's causing this, whatever it is. And seeing their relationship with Christ is one of the just main things of where they are, how they're looking at different things. And so it impacts everything.
Mm-hmm. And we were joking earlier and talking about, because there's good counseling and bad counseling. So counseling can be kind of anything, but we're looking for good gospel-centered counseling. And we were saying that as a parent, no matter what, you're counseling your kids, and your kids are going to follow what you're doing, how you're doing it. It's so interesting when you look on, because I'm a parent, and you have these moments and you have these times where your kids do something that you do, and you're like, oh, man, I can't get upset at them for that, but you still want to talk them through that. You still want to counsel them through, okay, why this isn't good, and then apologize, because I know I'm the one who did this. I behave this way. But counseling is always taking place with people around you. Right?
Oh, yeah. Like, I see, as the youth pastor, I see their problems and everything like that. And one of my first things is, well, have you talked to your parents about this? Because that's, the people they spend the most time with. As much as teenagers do not want to spend time with their parents,
That's so true.
their parents are their biggest impacts, either in positive or negative ways, but that's just what it is. They're just there. And so I'm always, well, have you talked to them about this? I mean, I always try and do what I can too, but
Of course.
when it comes down to it, there's only so much that I can do in some situations.
And it's truly the people you spend more time with, right? Because here, our mission statement is to make disciples who make a difference. Well, in making disciples, you actually have to spend time with that person. And if you're making a difference, it's because you've spent more time with that person than somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
Like I have a few people in my life that I am discipling, that, I'm trying to get them to go in a certain direction. But if I'm not spending time with them, that's just not going to happen. And it's the same thing, I believe, in counseling. Like if I just have one meeting with somebody, I don't really think I'm ever going to be able to get through to them what I'm trying to guide and direct them towards. It's about establishing a relationship with them. And that kind of takes time. So counseling isn't one of these, it's a one thing, I'm going to go in and I'm going to, so I know Alex is a guy who counsels at the church. Let me go sit down. I'm going to have one meeting with him and expect him to solve all my problems. Like that's never going to happen, right?
No, I mean, in one meeting, it goes both ways. In one meeting, the counselor isn't going to know everything about that one person.
Exactly.
Because you can go to a counselor and say, okay, they're going to fix me in one meeting. That's unrealistic because they have to know you to be able to do that. And that's just not possible in just one meeting.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. It's establishing a time thing. So here's another question I wanted to ask you. Counseling, why is it even necessary? Because a lot of people look on and go, well, I don't need that. Or I don't even want that. Or I've heard even with couples, well, you go because that's going to help you. That's not going to, I don't need that. So I want you to just kind of break down for us. Why is it important? Why is it necessary to seek counseling?
Well, from a biblical perspective, the simple answer is because we're all sinners. So sin is the plague that has plagued humanity since the beginning. Yeah, and it's just led from there. Everyone is sinful, and because of that, our actions are oftentimes rooted in sin. And so in counseling, like that example you gave of the couple, well, you go do that because I don't need to. There's pride on that side. That's a huge flag right there. That person is full of pride. I'm not saying that the other person is completely innocent because I'm guaranteeing it's two ways, but
there's always two sides to that story.
There's always, and everyone has those things. And counseling doesn't mean necessarily that your life's falling apart. All of these things are going on.
Exactly.
It's just whatever you're going through. Maybe you need some help kind of walking through it. Somebody, you're trying to buy a new car. You're not going to just go and buy something random. You're going to go and ask questions and find out what you need and what will be best for you. You're going to seek the counsel of the dealership and assume that they're not going to, try and give you the most expensive offer.
Yeah, depends on the depends on the dealer you're trying to get counsel from.
Yeah, but counseling is something everyone can have because it's not necessarily just for the bad.
And that, I'm so glad you brought that up because I wanted to make sure people understood. Counseling isn't, oh no, my life is falling apart. Now I'm going to go get counsel. No, you can seek counsel in even the smallest things. Hey, I'm trying to make a decision on, let's say, what I'm going to wear today. And a kid will go to their parent and ask for counsel on, hey, does this outfit work? And sometimes it doesn't work and you are receiving wise counsel from somebody. And now it's up to you to take that counsel, right? Yeah. It's up to you to take that advice. So like going back to the car. All right, I've got this car that I really want, but it's way outside of my budget. But man, I really want that car. And then you seek counsel from somebody that says, well, why don't you just get a car that you need? It doesn't have all the features that this one has. It doesn't automatically drive for you, but it still has the blind side guide for you. It's still got nice features, and this is within your budget. Why don't you go that direction? Now this person has two choices. I really want this car, so I'm just not going to listen to that counsel and I'm going to go get what I want. Or they're going to say, hey, you know what? That's really good counsel. I can afford this. This is within my budget. I'm going to do that. It's still a nice car, and I'll go that direction. And then you've got whichever choice you've made. Either you're working yourself into debt over here because you can't keep up with this payment, or you're living this comfortable life because you listen to the godly advice that somebody was able to give you regarding a decision that you were making. So it's not, oh no, my world is falling apart. It's just, hey, I want some advice about this. I need some counsel in where I should move, what car I should buy, this house. It's all type of counsel we can get.
Yeah, because life is life. Life is full of choices, like getting a new job.
Which you just got.
I did. Here I am. It's like, do I need to do this or should I look for something else? You're going to seek counsel from someone. If you're married, like I just got, you're going to seek the counsel of your spouse because it doesn't just affect you, it affects other people. And so counseling isn't just for the good of one person, it's for that person's entire life and everyone that they impact.
Yeah, I love that. And it's just good to have people around you who are able to give you the advice and counsel you on different things. You said earlier that anybody can be counselors. We all shouldn't be counselors, but everybody can be a counselor. Can you kind of explain what you mean by that?
Yeah. So all throughout Scripture, we see examples of just regular guys just counseling people. We see in Galatians chapter 6, it says, if anyone's caught in any kind of transgression, you who can do something about it should do something about it.
Yep.
It's not saying, okay, that one guy that's in charge, it's his job to do it. It's no, if you have the capability, you're supposed to help them.
Yeah, step up and help your brother.
Yeah, and the other example has some good and some bad examples. The book of Job.
I think I know where you're going. Yeah, Job. I want to be week one.
Yeah.
I want to be week one friend.
Yeah, the start of Job, for those of you that don't know, Job had it all together. He had the life, the family, the money, everything. And it was all taken from him. And it was because Satan was like, this guy's going to ridicule you, God. And he goes, no, he won't. And that's what happened. And everything was taken from him. His kids died. His wife left. All of his livestock, all of his money was just taken. And he was going through it.
Yeah.
And it says in Job chapter 2, 3 of his friends showed up and they saw him and they walked into his sorrow with him and they sat there for 7 days and nights. Not a word was said.
Yeah, they didn't say anything. They just sat with the brother.
Yeah. And that's something I learned in chaplaincy from, his name's Chaplain Dewey. He's a police chaplain down in Charleston. He said that's the ministry of presence.
Yes.
He would sit with homicide families and just sit with them for hours. Wouldn't say a word, wouldn't have to. And he said they would thank him for talking with them. And he's like, I haven't said a word.
Yeah, but just being there was enough.
Yeah, and that's what we see in Job. And then, it goes downhill from there because his friends think, you're like, okay, well, now this is, we've been here with him. We know exactly what's going on in this guy's life. So let me counsel him. Let me give him the advice that I think that he needs. That was not right.
Yeah, and that's where it turns around and you're going, oh no. And I think you just said it because they were doing what they thought needed to be done.
Yeah.
And so in their own power and in their own strength, they said, I've got this. Let me help you through this.
Yeah, something I've seen a lot. I know I kind of struggle with the same thing. People are uncomfortable in silence, especially important silence.
I know. People say I have a problem with being silent.
Yeah, they have to fill it with something, especially when it's like an important topic, like what Job was going through, or just whatever it may be. If it's something important, people can't sit quietly, and there's nothing wrong with sitting quietly.
Yeah, but it's a good point. It's so hard to do sometimes, and I know I personally struggle with that. Like even in my prayer life. Like I'm praying to God and I'm asking God, Lord, would you speak to me? Would you give me a word? Would you? And and I'm constantly talking to God, and I'm not being silent enough for God to actually speak to me. Like sometimes I feel like God's going, look, man, if you could just be quiet for a little bit, you'll actually hear me. You know, stop talking to me, open up my word. I'm ready to talk to you. But I'm so busy talking. I'm so busy wanting to say things. And as you say, that awkward silence, it's like, I've got to say something. Like I knew right now, if we were just silent for 10 seconds, people would freak out and go, oh my goodness, what's happening? Like, is something wrong with my radio? How come I don't hear noise?
Something's broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we look further in Job, and there was a fourth friend that was there. Mm-hmm. He was younger than all the rest of them.
Yeah, the young cat.
I don't know how to say his name. I think it's Elihu.
This is what I learned about Old Testament names. If you just say it loud and fast, it's right.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I learned. I got an entire degree in this, and that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah,
say it quick, say it fast.
Quick, say it fast.
And
it's the right name.
No one else can say it either. But this guy was there with them through all of the debates and the arguments, and he was sitting there, and it says, he burned with anger at Job because he justified himself rather than God.
There it is.
He burned with anger also at Job's 3 friends because they had found no answer, although they had declared Job to be in the wrong. Now he had waited to speak to Job because they were older than he was. And when he saw that there was no more answers that anyone could give, he burned with anger. He said, I'm young in years and you are aged, therefore I was timid and afraid to declare my opinion to you. I said, let days speak and many years teach wisdom, but it is the spirit in men, the breath of the Almighty that makes him understand. Mm-hmm. It is not the old who are wise, nor the aged who understand what is right. It's not just old people who can give advice and can give counsel. Mm-hmm. Anybody can, especially in biblical counseling, because it says it's in the spirit of man, the breath of the Almighty. It's not you and me, it's God that's speaking.
And that's where the counsel should come from. And so when you are seeking a biblical counselor, at least the prayer is that counselor has already been in communication with God so that they could know the right thing to say to you. I know, and we'll talk about training in a little bit, what it looks like, but I know what I've been learning is that you go to a counselor and the first thing you do is you fill out this information about what's going on in your life so that the counselor could already kind of know what's happening. But that gives that counselor that opportunity to pray on your behalf, to seek God's wisdom so that as they start to counsel you, as you're getting this information from them, you know it's coming from God. It's not just somebody on a whim trying to do something in their own power.
Oh, yeah.
Which is exactly what was happening in the book of Job. These guys are saying, well, now I know what's happening with your life. Oh, well, I know, but this could have never happened. If you didn't this or if you didn't that, this would never happen. Well, after you go through the book of Job, you realize they never sought God for anything they spoke to Job about. They were just doing what they thought was right and what they believed to be correct.
Yeah. And this guy, he's spot on. He's saying, I'm younger. I'm going to say these things, and you're not going to like them. Mm-hmm. A lot of counseling, when you're really going through it and you're not accepting that you might be the problem, there's going to be things that are said that you don't like. One of my professors said it just so perfect. He said, when someone's coming to counseling, it is important to let them know that they are in a safe place.
Yeah.
Whatever they say stays there.
Exactly.
Everything's confidential, but it's not a soft place.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at you, and if I see your sin, I'm going to let you know, hey, this is what's going on. Mm-hmm. Like the example of the married couple, the pride that's there. I'm going to say, hey, this is what I see. Yeah. This is what's going on. And you're not going to like it.
You're not going to like it. But you point them to the word and you show them, hey, this is the behavior and this is the consequence to that behavior.
Yeah.
And this is what's happening. And they're not going to like it. And they're probably going to get upset. The prayer would be that they actually come back because it's not meant to make you upset. It's meant to give you the truth, but the truth in love, the truth in God's word, so that you know, hey, we're trying to guide you to a place where you can meet Jesus face to face and let the Spirit change you,
Yeah.
not just to get you upset and tell you you're wrong. Because as you said it earlier, we're all sinners.
Yeah.
We're all wrong. I mean, every time somebody comes together with, hey, this is the problem I'm having in this person, you always want to go back and look at yourself first. Hey, is there something happening in your life that's causing this? And if so, let's try to change that first.
Because if there's not a heart change, there's not going to be any other change.
No life change will take
You
place.
you can staple apples to a palm tree, but it's not an apple tree. Think about it. You can change behaviors,
That's
but
good.
if your heart does not change,
I'm still trying to picture how you staple an app, because I would think the staple doesn't get through but maybe a
they
nail
got
gun.
stems.
I'm sorry, go back to I'm just still.
Oh, no,
you
you're
could,
good.
That's a great statement. You could staple an apple to a palm tree, but that doesn't make it an apple tree.
Yeah. You can put new behaviors on people, but if their heart doesn't change, they're going to go right back to what they were because they're going to stay the same.
Yeah, absolutely. No change. So then talk to me about what training looks like to become a biblical counselor. You and I are both going through a certification training process of what it looks like. And from what I have seen from yours and what I'm doing, it's very similar because it's based on the Bible. But tell me what it looks like to become trained to actually be a biblical counselor.
So from what I've seen, a lot of it is addressing difficult topics. Because there's a lot of things in counseling that you can look at on a page and go, I hope I never have to deal with that.
Yes.
But those are the things you're probably going to have to deal with a lot. Like I was, I think it was 3 weeks ago was when I had that training at Charleston Southern. We were doing a suicide alertness training. And that is a difficult training to sit through because you're looking at it and you're going, okay, yeah, I can recognize all of these things. You're going, what if I have to? What if I have to sit down with somebody and say, hey, is this what's happening?
Yeah.
Or is this what you're dealing with? Because I've seen the training. I've seen what happens when you do it right, and I've seen what happens when you do it wrong. And it's a lot. It's a lot to put on a person.
Yeah.
But it's not for myself that I'm doing this. It's for the good of other people, and it's because that's where I feel called to. I feel called to walk through difficult things with people because I was going through some difficult stuff. You've heard my story. I went to basic training.
Yeah.
I got sick. Doctors thought I just didn't want to be there. And so they started ridiculing my faith, thinking that's why I was there. And so I was just being attacked on everything I believed in. And I didn't have anybody standing there with me. And so felt like I was by myself. And because of that, I'm like, I don't want anybody else to have to feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I didn't go through a lot of the things that I have to talk, like addictive behaviors, family counseling, abuse counseling, any of that. I didn't go through any of that, but that's a part of what we're doing.
Yeah. That's exactly what you're doing. Yeah. My wife and I are going through a certification process to become biblical counselors. And the first part of it was we had to go through 30 hours of lectures and teachings and those type of things. And what was funny, what we discovered through those 30 hours is that we need to check ourselves first. We need to get ourselves in a right mind, in a right place, and in a right space before we even start trying to talk to somebody else. Now, don't get me wrong. There are life experiences that my wife and I have that if somebody comes and speaks to us, we are able to give good, godly wisdom and advice to help them out through their situation. So I'm not saying, oh, we couldn't do that until after this. But what I'm saying is the process that we started, and this is a long process. This is a 2-year process for us. The amount of books we have to read, the questions that we have to answer. This is a long process. But the beginning step for us was, man, we need to we need to get ourselves in check. We need to get ourselves right. In fact, my wife looked at me during one of the sessions. She said, "This is a trick, man. This isn't how to become counselors. They are counseling us." Because a lot of the topics they were hitting is things that are happening in your life. We're all going through something in life. But there's somebody else who has been through it that can counsel you through it and that can help you through it. And my wife and I, we've been on both sides. Like, we have received biblical counseling, and we are now going through the process of becoming biblical counselors. And we have also counseled people before in their marriages or in their, life trying to grow up. Hey, this is what I'm going through. And I know you guys have been through it. Help us through it. Hey, we know that you guys are adoptive parents. We're thinking about adoption. Give us counsel, give us wisdom about what that looks like. Hey, we know you guys are foster parents right now. We're thinking about fostering. Can you give us like, that wasn't we went through a biblical counseling class and now we can tell you. No, that's life experience. So you have both sides of it. If I'm not, mistaken, there's the life experience counsel, and then there's just the wisdom that you get from the training of going through it. But like I said, one of the first steps was, hey, you guys get yourself in check. And if you aren't in check, how are you able to counsel others?
Yeah. I mean, that's what a lot of my classes at CSU were. I mean, we'd be sitting there and we'd start going through a topic, and you could just feel the tension in the room rising, because it was like, man, he's talking to us. He's not talking about what we're going to do. He's talking to us, because counseling is just as much for the counselor,
thank you,
as it is for the one that's being counseled, because having to reflect on either what you've done in your life and helping other people not go through the same thing, or directing them to the same thing, is very different than, hey, I'm going through this exact thing that I had to talk somebody else through.
Yeah, exactly. So one more. Maybe a couple. I don't know. I just shoot from the hip.
We'll see.
Yeah. My question for you then is, as you're going through this, what's been the biggest standout in this process of going through biblical counseling and getting your degree in biblical counseling? What's the one standout that you go, wow, this is shocking. Like, I never knew that.
So probably the biggest thing would be the idea of, making people more Christ-like, because it's an important thing to do, but it's a difficult thing to do, because a big misconception today is, Jesus said to love everybody, and so you have to accept me how I am. It's like, Jesus said to love everybody, but that's not what he said. Yeah. That's not what he did.
Yeah.
Because loving others and loving them the way Christ did are very different from what the world sees and from what we see. Because Christ loved everybody.
Yes.
The woman at the well.
Absolutely.
Loved that woman.
Yeah. But he didn't accept the behavior.
He did not let her continue in her adultery.
Yeah, exactly.
And that changed her life. She became more Christ-like. Or just, there are so many examples. Like when the Pharisees were stoning the woman, he said, whoever hasn't sinned, throw the first stone.
Go for it.
Nobody could. He didn't say, okay, you're good, keep going. He said, no, go and sin no more.
Yeah, sin no more. Change your behavior, change your ways.
And that's just as much for counselors, because counselors aren't sinless.
No.
At least I'm not. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. I'm a sinful person.
Yeah.
I promise you that.
Yeah. And it's even more so because we know our own sins.
Yeah.
And so we look at other people and go, that's a really good person. But they know their sins. I know my sins. I'm sure some people can look at me and go, that's an all right guy. I go, no.
Yeah.
But being more Christ-like it's two ways. Because it's our job to help people understand that and walk in that same way themselves. But it's also continuing to help ourselves. And like the one from Galatians 6 that I mentioned earlier, it continues on to say, and don't fall into it yourself. Being in difficult situations, counseling, people who are in difficult moments, it's easy to sympathize with them. That's what we have to. We have to be with them, feel what they're feeling, so that they can truly understand that we get it, that we're there to help them. But we can't fall into it with them. We have to step towards them to help them, but you can't just fall in completely, because then you're both drowning.
Yeah, and I love the way you put it, where you said Jesus didn't say, hey, it's okay to be the way you are. He always told them, you need to change your behavior. And as counselors, I think that's a very good point to make. When you're coming into counseling, the counselor is not accepting your behavior. The counselor is going to try to draw you to be more like Christ and say, hey, you need to change your behavior, change what you're doing, and you need to be more Christ-like. But the only way to do that is through his word. The only way to do that is actually having a relationship with Christ. And the counselor is just kind of, in biblical counseling, that is, their goal is just to guide you to how to be more like Christ, give you scriptures, pray with you, give you this direction to say, hey, now I'm on a path that is going to help my life change. Not because the counselor is telling me what to do and giving me these, oh, well, if you do these 5 steps, then this is going to change your life and you're going to become a new person. No. The steps are basically one step. Know Jesus.
Yeah.
Seek after Jesus and have a heart that desires to follow him. So I love the way you put that. One of my biggest things that was just kind of shocking for me as we're going through this was the statistic about how many depressed people there are out there. How many people suffer from depression and anxiety and those type of things. But in that, how many of them are not getting help? How many of them are not seeking? How many of them are not going after some type of help, some type of assistance, just to say, hey, this is what I'm going through? They're just saying, this is who I am. This is the type of person I'm going to be. And I just have to deal with my depression. I have to deal with my anxieties. And look, as biblical counselors, just as a Christian in general, if you just seek a Christian brother or a Christian sister, somebody who can just come alongside of you, pray with you, walk with you, help you get into the word, you don't have to suffer any of that alone. None of this, like you said way back in the beginning, counseling isn't for people who are just going through a hard time and my life is blowing up and everything is. No, counseling is for everyone, no matter what you're going through. And if you come alongside a Christian brother or a Christian sister, they can help counsel you through it. They aren't what does it say? Professional. They're not a professional counselor. They probably don't have a degree in biblical counseling. But if they love the Lord and their desire is to disciple you and help draw you closer to the Lord, in a sense, they can counsel you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, this is it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful sitting here, spending some time with you. Thank you for taking time out of your day and spending some time with me here on this podcast. Hey, if you guys enjoyed this podcast, I'm going to ask you to do us a favor. Would you just go on and like it? If you're following on YouTube, would you subscribe and just leave a comment? Let us know kind of what you're interested in, what you want to hear us talk about. And we'd love to be able to bring those topics to the table. For example, next week, I'm going to be able to sit down with Dr. Ed Gravely. He's a professor of the New Testament over at Charleston Southern University. And we're going to be talking about Bible translations and how the Bible translations even came into existence. So that's going to be a wonderful topic to talk about next week. But for now, we want to say thank you. Thank you for joining us on the Reality It podcast, where we talk about real life and real faith. And we pray that this has been a blessing for you. God bless you, and we'll see you guys next week.